The Google Pixel Fold after 48 hours of use. Oh, wow. Okay, lots to go over. This is going to be a long video, so I will jump right into it. My bottom line here is that I don't think you should be buying this device. Certainly not for $1,800, and certainly not in the condition that it's in right now. There's a lot to like about this. There are a lot of things that Google did well, but there are a bunch of things that Google did poorly. And when you add it up, the benefits of why you'd want to fold, I think it weighs on the side of not picking this up, certainly not on the way it's running with Android 13. So let's go over some of the positives, because people think I get a little too negative with Pixel devices. But a huge positive, obviously, for a device like this is they absolutely nailed the hardware. I think that's kind of universally accepted. Every person I've seen speak on this device has raved about the hardware, and for good reason. The matte finish on the Obsidian is gorgeous. It feels great. It's exactly what we've been wanting on Pixel devices for a while, instead of that piano black that they kept giving us over and over and over again. Not a fingerprint magnet. Love the accents here and the way they've kind of put in a little of that obsidian color in the camera bar here and the hinge on the metal. Really great feel in the hand. It's hefty, but it's a good heft. It's a premium heft, so it does have some weight to it, but it's balanced well. You're not going to have an issue with that. The hinge opening, well, it closes completely flat, which is a big deal for a lot of people, but the hinge on open feels about as solid as any hinge that I've used. It feels a little bit more like the Microsoft Surface Duo hinge, but with more resistance, obviously, because of the fact that it needs to be held in different positions and hold up significantly longer with the crease in the display, or rather the fold in the display itself. But it absolutely is capable of any position. Really tight tolerance on the hinge. It feels great. It feels sturdy. It feels solid. You're not going to have an issue with that. So hardware overall, absolutely an A+. So far, so good as far as Google's concerned. Then things start to go, well, you know what, let's keep it on the positive. We're all about sunshine here on Steve Licious Tech. The outer display. It's something that we've been wanting for a long time on foldables. People overseas, especially on the Oppo devices and some of the Vivo devices, they have had a perfectly fine outer display and usable outer display. Samsung with the Fold 4 is kind of inched towards a more usable outer display. They had those couple millimeters last year to the experience, and that has helped. But this is the most usable outer display we've ever had on a foldable, and I think that's certainly something that speaks for it. It gets bright enough. I still would like more brightness. It still has some pixel brightness problems. And it's not necessarily that it doesn't get bright enough. It's that when you try to max it out. See, I'm not at max right now, and I'm kind of okay with it. But when you max it out, to me, it blows out the colors a little bit. So I don't like to keep it on max, even though max would be bright enough. I pull it off just a little bit, and that dims it to get it nice. But it's an overall nice OLED, 120 hertz, super smooth experience. Performance is another benefit of this device. The Tensor 2, while it's had its headaches and other devices and kind of not necessarily honed in, I won't say optimized because of a con that we're going to talk about later, but it does, the performance-wise, it is silky smooth, and it absolutely is something that you're going to enjoy. I've had no problems with performance. It is smooth. It runs well with 120 hertz. So everybody's kind of raved about hardware, the outer display, and performance. And, I got to say, in my testing, that is absolutely held up. Now let's talk about the other stuff. The problems arise, and it's goofy for a foldable. The problems arise when you open it up. And that, to me, is a significant issue. We're going to turn off the display for a second. This is how it opens up just normally, without any extra pressure, without any extra force being put on the hinge. You kind of get it to here, and it kind of wants to stop. But look at what becomes, turn the screen off. Look at what becomes rather prominent when you do that, okay? And everybody says, well, look at that. It's just barely it's like a degree or two off of 180 degrees. Yeah, but what does it do? It massively accentuates the crease. So yes, can you force it to there? Yes, but then you start getting some flex. You're wondering how much you're supposed to force it. It could kind of get it there, and it kind of helps, but it's still pretty prominent. And the fact that if you could kind of see that in the camera, there are 3 creases because of the fact that it's so wide. It's a little goofy. Here's what also doesn't help. The software of the Pixel Fold, the software experience does not help the crease because they made it a duo. It's essentially a Duo. They want you to use this as two separate screens. And they've made it wide enough for you to be able to do that, but it forces you to do that. It's not like the Duo where I could fold it over, use the one display if I want to. I guess that's what the front display is supposed to be. But at that point, why have the foldable? This is not a good experience in here. Like I said, the pull down notification, you're forced into two screens. When you're doing this, it doesn't feel like it fits the space. And then the worst part about using the internal display on the Pixel Fold is the software experience itself. And I know that Google's sitting there saying, well, app developers are going to have to do this, and they're going to have to catch up with this and look at that Instagram experience. That's pathetic. And Samsung had a solution to this. They had kind of that good lock integration and abilities to do that. No developer is going to sit there and specialize an app experience for the Pixel Fold because 12 people are going to buy it, especially at $1,800. So don't sit there as a consumer and expect that experience to get better anytime soon. Does it get better if you rotate into portrait? Yes, it does. Okay, this is more of what you'd get on your Fold 4. But at that point, if you're doing all that to kind of get it to there, why not just go ahead and get a Fold 4, save a couple bucks, and I think you get a better internal display. It looks better to me. It's more colorful. It's brighter. And it's a better overall cohesive experience with the way that Samsung utilizes the space than something like this. So while I was for a long time asking for a more landscape orientation here on the internal display, I guess it's a case of be careful what you wish for. Or maybe it's just this implementation from Google. But so far, I have not liked it. I don't like the fact that it's the same home screen experience regardless of what you're doing, as I cancel something out. It's just, I set up something here, and I don't necessarily want this experience to be the same as in here. They keep crowing about Android 14 and how that's going to fix a lot of this stuff, and they're gonna make it. They had a long time. They worked on this a long time. They have Android 12L. They have Android 13, whatever version you could port that to 13. They have the ability to have tablet-like software on a mobile device. They just didn't hit it out of the park here. It's a very wonky experience. It doesn't feel good. And if you're sitting there, like every other foldable that I've used, like the Fold 4, like the Flip 4, even a little bit with the Moto Razr Plus, because of the fact that you can't do everything on that external display. Every foldable that I've used has made me sit there and like, you know what, I could get away with using this external display, but when I sit down and open it up, man, am I mesmerized by the experience. This is why I bought it. I don't feel that here. I'm not mesmerized by this experience. I don't like it. I sit there finding myself all day. I'm like, forget it. I don't even want to bother with the goofy aspect ratios and the painful app experiences. I'm just going to go ahead and do everything on the front display, which is bad because you could save yourself $900, get a Pixel 7 Pro, more than that now, and be set to go. So, and get a better camera sensor than you're getting on this for $1,800. So it just doesn't make sense right now. Does that mean it's going to stay in this state forever? No, but you're paying your money now. Google's taking your $1,800 now and promising you, well, maybe things will get better down the line. I don't subscribe to that. I never subscribe to that. Battery life's a big issue as well. 4 hours of screen on time. 4 hours. And that's with a lot of using the external display, which you think would be better on power. So you're watching it tick away. Not good. And don't talk to me. I know it's only been a couple days. Don't talk to me about adaptive battery. I don't want to hear it. Google is the only manufacturer that leans on that adaptive battery nonsense as hard as they do. Samsung, Moto, even you want to go back, Sony a lot of times with their devices. You want to name any manufacturer on the Android side that you want to. Are there some improvements with adaptive battery? Yeah, we're talking a little bit. Few percentage points of difference. They're not going to double the battery life on this without massive optimizations to how Tensor 2 runs. You're not going to get to the end of your 2 weeks on adaptive battery and to go from 4 hours of screen on time to 6 or 7. It's not going to happen. But Google always holds out hope that, you got to let the adaptive battery and the adaptive charging, whatever, run its course. No nonsense. Samsung, when you come out of the box, you're getting roughly the experience that you're going to get battery-wise. Sony out of the box, same thing. Apple out of the box, same thing. So, OnePlus out of the box, same thing. I can go down the line. They're the only manufacturers that will say that it's going to somehow magically improve, and it never really does. 4 hours of screen on time is what you're sitting with, and a lot of people are still sitting with on their review units 2 weeks down the line. So please keep that in mind. A lot of downsides here, a lot of nice stuff, a lot of promise, but you know what? Google doesn't get away with promise on this device. I don't want to hear the first generation stuff either, because it's not like they're living in a vacuum. Imagine if a car company came out with an engine today, a vehicle with an engine, and it had a carburetor. You say, "Wow, it's their first effort. You know, it'll get better over time." Blah blah blah. I don't care. Do they not have a television? They not have YouTube? They can look up and see what other cars are doing now. Google's had years and years of experience and knowledge of what other devices and manufacturers are doing with their foldables. All right, they know what's right and what's wrong at this point. This was not ready. They had another design that they scrapped and they went with this one, and you could see that. It feels that. It reeks of kind of a hodgepodge, like, well, we took some of the ideas from this device that we had, some of these ideas that, and we kind of glued them all together. So does that say that this is never going to be a good device? No. Does it say they have a lot of work to do, especially on the software side? Yes. There is promise here, but you know what? $1,800 is a heck of a lot to pay for a promise. So a lot of positives. Like I said, don't take them all negatives. Outer display is gorgeous. Build is phenomenal. One of the best devices that I've held. It feels great. But the software experience and the internal display, which you think is something that Google would, you know, as a software company, as the makers of Android, would excel at, kind of falls flat. Nonplussed by it. And if you spend that kind of money, nonplussed is not the kind of emotional state that you want to be in. If you've made it this far, like, comment, subscribe, all that fun stuff. Until next time, have that Steve-licious day.